All right. And here we go. Uh, slideshow. This slideshow was one of those things that was giving me problems. So let's see. Oh, it worked. It worked. All right. Welcome to Loneliness to Resilience membership community. And I'm so glad you're here. And I want to invite you to put in the chat comments about introducing yourself, but also how is it that you're interested in this topic? Have you struggled with like loneliness in a season, a certain period of your life? I felt invisible my whole career, and even before I was in school, I guess, because I actually wanted to be invisible. But when I read Private Murty's book Together, it was amazing to me when he said that people who feel invisible, that's a type of loneliness. I had no idea. I had bragged at times about not having struggled with loneliness, and come to find out, uh, feeling invisible is one of those things that connects to loneliness. So let's see. So please feel free to be um, a little bit vulnerable. Tell us how is it that this relates to you? This topic that I'm presenting today is just powerful. I actually wrote a paper for English class, I think it was, on values, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And my instructor said he had never, in all his years of instructing, had never had anybody write on on values. So let's see. All right. So today's agenda, ladies and gentlemen, are that introduce yourself in the chat, and we do want you to feel safe enough to do that. And maybe a couple sentences about your experience. I'm going to share briefly my resources that I have been working on the last 6, 8 years, and show you a little bit about our website, where our resources for our replays are, and some other things. And we usually do emotional reflection, and I think I might skip that today because I want, well, we'll make it brief, because I want to have some discussion on my topic today. So the last couple weeks, we've had some presenters that I want to play their video. They're just 2-minute videos, but I'd like to introduce you to them because it's really, I like words of wisdom, and they certainly present a new um, topic. And so then I'll be presenting, and we like to end with reminding you the elements of transformation. What does it take to change and become better people? And today I'm going to also present a slide about what's some next steps that you could take in regards to both our topic and the things that I prepared for you today. So here's my resources. I love to talk about change, curiosity, courage, potential. When I was a teenager, I think I was about 14, and I started having this sense of what's my potential. I'm looking at, can I see it on the inside? Where's it hiding? And love to talk about potential, possibilities, and purpose. And my book, my pointer, yeah, I guess it doesn't work on. My book on the left there is Fresh Courage in Retirement: Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. So on the bottom left here is my essence statement, what I now am calling Spark. I am precious jewel of wisdom. We kind of write that into a metaphor of all the good things about you. And that's my secret sauce. So you can find it on Discover Your Spark, Rekindle Your Joy, the Great Discovery um, platform. And that will be again on my next steps. And on that same platform, I have make a marvelous transition into volunteering. When I got through writing that in May this last year, I had the strong sense that that would change people. Volunteering is just a great way to get out of yourself and get social and be growing and learning and that kind of thing. And that's a good keeps us healthy and growing and thriving. All right. So on our website, when you signed up for this class community, you were on a Kajabi website, and we have under challenges some milestones, and the milestones are meant to be how you can track yourself, your personal progress. When I was taught how to do these communities, they say you need to have a finish line so people know they're how close are they getting to being, finished with the process. So I asked you some personal questions. I don't think we reflect enough about how is life going, am I moving in the right direction, that kind of thing. And that's what these milestones are kind of helping you assess, and the replay videos are under the links here. And as we grow, I would like to see on the left, you'll see some special interest community circles where people that have a lot of things in common, like nurses or first responders or teachers, that they might want to do some um, chatting among themselves. So that's quickly going through the background stuff. So, all right, one of our presenters this last year gave us a slide here about how are you feeling today? Happy, sad, excited, or lonely? There's there's something kind of amazing about um, putting a name on things and recognizing what's the situation now. And because I was having problems the last 2, 3 days with my computer, I'm not sure I'm any of those today. I'm dubious as to how this is going to go, and yet I feel so strongly about our topic today. So, well, let's go back here. Now, if I carefully stop sharing screen, um, okay, this is where it gets tricky. Um, well, let's try this. Okay. Oh, I have two screens, and oh, I have two people in the waiting room. Okay. All right. So anybody want to check in? Um, oh, Derek Wilson has come in. All right. Derek is new. And how about one or two people checking in as how are you feeling today? Happy, sad, excited, or lonely?
I'll check in. I'm actually feeling very excited today.
Good. And why is that, Maria?
Well, there's just some amazing things happening for the Healing Institute right now. And I've been in touch with a number of people who really are giving me a lot of support. And it's 2025. I'm just really excited about this new year and that we're going to take off.
Yeah, yeah, I have been sensing that even in December
Mhm,
1st, I
mhm.
was getting excited. I thought, okay, yeah, Sharon, is Christmas is coming. But there was something else. It was kind of like an atmosphere change.
It
That,
was exactly. I agree.
yeah, okay. Lisa or Red, you want to check in? Nathan, maybe? Excited, happy, sad, lonely? Okay. We're not all going to talk at once. All right. Well, let's see if I can do this again. No, see, this is sharing. Now my screen won't work. I mean, my mouse. Oh dear.
How's it
Um,
going, guys? Is this thing on?
I
Hey Sharon, can
Hi,
everyone hear
Brad.
me?
Good. Yeah,
How's it
I
going?
can.
Sorry, I've got a 2-year-old that's fighting a nap over here. So I'm working on that on my end, but things are going great. I love to, as you can hear, she wants to say hi in the background.
Oh, cool.
Things are going great on my end, Sharon. I'm glad I got a chance to hop on your live and to see what it's all about. But I'll let you continue as I'm wrestling this toddler over here.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to get back to my screens to make them work. My mouse is on my laptop, and yet I can't get my big screen to change. Oh, maybe I need to go back to share. Maybe that's it.
Sometimes you need to do a toggle when you've got two screens open.
I'm not sure the answer to that.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to help.
Well,
Obviously not help.
that's okay. That's okay. Saying I don't know is valid.
There you go.
All right, let's try this. No, toggle. Um, my screen, big screen is not changing. Oh, okay. I need some help. Oh, you know what? Well, I tried using my stop share. You can see my PowerPoint now, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, something happened. Oh, oh, something happened. Okay, all right. It's moving again. All right. Each day is driven by our emotions, but where they lead us is up to us. We get to choose how to face each day. And that's why it's kind of important to name our emotions so we're aware of them being running in the background, kind of thing. So, all right, these two slides, then, links, I have open
Is
on
that
my,
your second slide that you're reading from? Because we can't see that. We still just have your first slide on the screen.
oh, okay, stop sharing. All right. Oh, we've got people in the waiting room. It didn't tell me that on my other screen. All right, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming in, Dolores. Okay, and Al, they're regulars. Cool. Um, and oh, I thought I said admit everybody. All right, this is exciting. Um, now you are seeing. Uh, uh, I don't know. All right, if I do this, if I do this. Good morning, Dolores. Oh, Ben is here. All right.
Good
I'm not,
morning. I've been in your waiting room.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had my slides up and it didn't tell me.
Yeah, I'm
So
not sure what happened, but that's okay. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
okay. I'm
Hello,
trying,
everyone.
I'm trying to change my screen, uh, down. Well, okay, let's try this again. What if I do that? Um, I'm having to get used to using two screens and, okay. Well, regardless, even if I can't play my videos, I can at least, um, uh, well, that's gonna ruin everything. Okay, well, maybe I just have to talk it through. I was doing various things yesterday, and yet when things would change, I thought, what did I do different to make it work? AI is changing stuff how it works. All right. What are you seeing on the screen now?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Just the three of us. Well, the three of us that have our cameras on.
Um, all right. Lord help me. Um, See, I don't know how to get it from one screen to the next. All right. All right. Setting. Let's try this. Um, oh, I remember something I did. No. Well, I'm not going to let this stop me. So, um, I will just talk to you about the values of mental health. Oh, values and mental well-being. There are several important ways values are related to mental health. And I've got like 7 things here. Important ways values are related to mental well-being. So, and part of what I want to have discussion here is, have you sensed that values enhance a sense of purpose and fulfillment? Or that values serve as an anchor to your life? Or that values can motivate us to engage in difficult but meaningful behaviors? We might not have ever reflected or put the two dots together, that the values you hold, what you think are and feel particularly are important to life, can impact your mental well-being. And in fact, um, I was going to share my values. Um, I don't see my cheat sheet here at the moment, but I think my values include love and collaboration. We're kind of collaborating here today, right? And creativity, and I forgot my fourth one. And but the values that you hold, like maybe humor would be a value to somebody here. And if you're not living in a sense of uh, humor on a regular basis, then you aren't aligned with your values. Okay. Um, and if you're not like the last one, values can motivate us to engage in difficult but meaningful behaviors. So if humor is valuable to you, um, there can be times when it's not appropriate to be humorous, and you might be in difficult behaviors. You're not able to express that. That kind of makes sense, right? Any comments? I'm not going to change my screen because I may not get back to this. So pardon me on that, okay? Um, so like like love for me, I feel like that's a value, and does it serve as an anchor? I believe it does, because try to live my life based on loving myself and loving my neighbor, and loving the world. Basically, everybody deserves kindness, and that's a type of love. Um, I at the houses have foundations, and I guess I see values as part of that foundation. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes, most definitely. And I love this slide about how values enhance one's sense of purpose and fulfillment. It's not something I think that we're actually taught when we are growing up. about recognizing what our values are or what we do value, and
Yeah.
then weaving that into a sense of purpose.
Right.
And I do agree, it's definitely serves as an anchor and can help motivate us when we have to engage in difficulties that are coming up in our life, which also can lead to mental health.
Exactly. When the rubber meets the road, what's your foundation, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I did find my values. Authenticity is one, and I think I probably aligned with that way back in preschool. In some way. I didn't go to preschool, but in
And
those
integrity is one of my values.
yeah, I find
Is
that on my list too. Yeah.
very important. When I meet people that I don't have I get the sense that I try not to be judgmental, but I get the sense that their integrity, or they're not really being true to who they are. They might be talking and spouting off information that they think I might be interested in, but I don't see it something that they totally relate to.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I'm very cautious.
Yeah. I had a coworker that he seemed to figure out what he thinks I wanted to hear and then tells me that.
Yeah. Mhm.
He came across as a used car salesman to me. All right, so here's some more. Several more important ways values are related to mental well-being. Your personal growth and self-expansion relate to positive affectivity and well-being. Right. So values also are part of our personal growth and self-expansion that relate to positive effects on your surroundings and your well-being. And I don't have a good explanation of that, but values, um, okay, so I have my list of 50 values here, and what would be a personal expansion? Example. Well, invention, judgment, justice, forgiveness, contentment, congruent. So as we try to mature into and personal growth that build us up and actually build up our e- our experience in the world and therefore our well-being. All right, so the research I did also mentioned well-being can be different, expressed differently by different cultures. The Eastern cultures um, usually revert back to traditional values. And if I remember right, one of the traditional values that are held by um, Japanese, and I don't know if Chinese too, is fairness. And that's the only one that came to mind. You might have a little more insight on that than I do. And the sixth way that values relate to mental well-being is preventing moral distress. And this, they talked about this as if you're forced to act against your principles, that is going to internally cause some mental distress. So if you're aligned with your values and in a situation, you know, where your family or relationships or your boss force you to act against your principles, it's going to affect your mental well-being. So committing to values we consider important is associated to life satisfaction and happiness. And, you know, thinking, Pamelia, your comment that we're not taught. So, how can you commit to values when you're not even aware of them? And yet, the benefit of being aware of them is a life of satisfaction and happiness. All right, so then we might want to consider my next slide is living in conflict. with values. I just mentioned the distress that can happen when your family or your boss don't allow you to express your or live by your values can have a significant negative impact on well-being. And I have a list of 8 ways that it can that living in conflict with values can have a negative impact. Depression. Whoa. How many people are on antidepressants? And it could be tied to living in conflict with their values. Burnout was a big one. In fact, I picked up a book from the library a couple days ago on burnout. Um, if your if your value, like, let's see what I say, collaboration. I, I say collaboration is a strong value, and yet I'm sometimes perplexed as to how come I don't have more in life. But maybe I interpret that in several different ways of how to collaborate with thoughts and with people and with projects. Um, and yet I don't think it's burning me out. All right, confusion. When you don't have alignment with your values, it can cause confusion. Um, and does anybody have an example of how that could be? Um, Confusion would be the lack of clarity, right? What comes to mind is my a couple of my nephews have had um anger management issues. And that's not the same as confusion, but it kind of relates to the next item. Internal conflict anger can definitely fit there. And they have no idea that their anger is coming from being misaligned with their values. Nobody's told them that. Um,
Well, do
and
they know what their values are, Sharon?
probably not. Yeah,
So I mean, that's a big thing because people, and especially, teenagers that
yeah,
are just, starting out in the world, if they don't understand what a value is or what they hold, I
important.
guess, meaningful to them,
Yeah,
then they wouldn't know how to they wouldn't know how to use that value to determine whether or not they were, in the joy zone or not, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
I
I think that, I mean, I truly believe that the reason that I have some very clear values is because of my parents. They had very clear values and they taught me what those values were. They didn't just teach me, and it wasn't verbalized, it was shown. It was how they lived their life.
yeah,
And so when you grow up like that, but there's many people that have grown up in a home that didn't perhaps show what was valuable.
right, right. And I don't know why I say this, but it seems like people in the farming communities have a lot better grasp on what a value is because it's kind of like part of getting your crops raised and
Yeah, yeah,
that whole process of feeding both your family and the world, what they're contributing to the world. They're closer to the foundations of life, I guess. All right, so here's some more things that you might experience if you're living in conflict with your values. Stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety. So I would imagine if you have a value about being let's take it to moms at home and raising kids. You have a strong value that you ought to be home uh, teaching your kids yourself instead of paying somebody else to do it. And yet you also feel strongly about um, paying for your house or your condo, your apartment. and feeding the family. I could see a lot of stress and anxiety about that when your heart says, and your to honor your personal values is not possible at the time. And that's, I think, one of the reasons a lot of women are choosing to make the uncomfortable leap into having their own business because they value raising their kids themselves. You you've heard people that fits for people in life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, and this one, the next one is not maybe quite so profound, but you have less life satisfaction. What I do for people, I help them have more life satisfaction because we deal with values clarification in the process of identifying your spark or your intrinsic motivation. I felt for 4 or 5 years now that heaven wants to come to earth, and having fulfillment and satisfaction, I just think is like ultimate joy. And that's not going to happen when you're living in conflict with your values. Okay, two more are lower self esteem. How do you feel about yourself when you're not aligned with what's important to you, your values? Um, you don't need other people to put you down. You put your own self down because there's a strife going on in your spirit about what's important and not living by that. And then the last conflict is strain on relationships. Um, I don't have a good example of that. Maybe somebody else does. I know, Dolores, we've talked a little bit about strain on relationships as far as communication goes with the younger generation. Um, so maybe having a conversation with your relationships. Uh, I imagine what in a lot of what topics come up in conversation has to do with your values. Um, but I can't think of an example. Anybody want to?
Yeah. I think, Sharon, it also certainly has to do with what your common values are, but also what's happening around, current events, what they're experiencing, what you're experiencing. I've was in a situation earlier this week where it was a multi-generational type of conversation. And in fact, we were talking about mentor mentee relationships in a business environment. And how do you get your Generation X, Y millennials to um, talk to the senior management who are going to be their mentors, right, in a business
Ah,
environment? And
yeah.
really looking at vulnerability. They talked about certainly having to have a structure, certainly having to have objectives, but from a business perspective and just from a human perspective, you have to have some vulnerability, the willingness to be vulnerable for the younger generation, vulnerable that they don't know everything and they always think they do, especially when they come into a corporate environment, right? They have to know a lot of things because they just graduated or came from another job. The senior level people know a lot of things because they've been at those levels for a long time, but it doesn't mean that they communicate the same way that they did with some of their peers or some of their subordinates. It's different now. And that's a gap we're looking at. It was a very interesting session around how we bridge that communication gap going back to the 60s. We always had that gap. So I found it very interesting that it's not just values, it's our experiences and how we interpret those experiences, both in a corporate environment and just everyday living.
Yeah, that reminds me when I started a meetup group here in town for boomers, and I each week I went to the group with one question, and everybody had to answer the same question. And the amazement of how many how many different ways people could answer the same question. So those different perspectives really came out, and I was surprised at the learning that I got from the various answers. So that kind of relates to what you're saying, Dolores. So cool.
Yeah, and Dolores, I am so glad that you brought up vulnerability, because depending on how you view vulnerability, I think vulnerability has been viewed as a weakness until Brene Brown wrote her book. But we can be vulnerable, which allow ourselves to be vulnerable to learn. But that is really a strength. And to recognize that vulnerability is a strength. And I'm just wondering if that's a generational gap as well, whether the younger generations look at vulnerability as a weakness or a strength. The older generations, I think, have been taught that vulnerability is a weakness.
Yeah, somehow I got the sense early on that I kind of relished vulnerability because magic might happen.
If I can chime in, being a millennial and this idea of vulnerability, I think it's very interesting to see from my generation as a millennial, and even the generation younger than me. I see a lot of vulnerability as a strength in both my generation and the younger generation, and I think it's great that you're having these conversations, because I think that like you said, the older generation, it was such a weakness frowned upon. It was almost that idea of, even when we got into small talk with random people, we reverted right to the "what do you do" instead of "how are you," and really asking "how are you." And I think that there's a beautiful shift that's happening in the younger generations for being open to that. And I think that the way to bridge that gap in a relationship aspect is the more that you can bring in, if maybe you're a superior talking to a younger generation, one way that you could help with that is to show them that you were able to be vulnerable and don't see it as a weakness. And it's encouraging as a millennial to see the older generations talking about vulnerability as a strength, because thank you, Brene Brown, for bridging the gap.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Because it's been so beautiful to see. But yeah, I think that that's a huge aspect. But even going back to values, I think that one of the biggest keys here is it goes back to recognizing what your values are. And I think that and I love what you're doing here, Sharon, because you're creating a space for people to explore what their values are. Because once you know what your values are, then you understand why your life is stressful or you're anxious, because your habits and your life don't match where your values are, and there's that disconnect. Some call it a cognitive dissonance, even. But yeah, I think it's so great what you're discussing here, and yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, I have here, since you can't see me. I don't think you can see me. I have a little one of my little art blocks that I like a lot. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up and be seen without any guarantee of the outcome. To me, that's magic. I'm willing. Well, maybe it's linked to having a faith, to a strong sense of faith. I'm willing to show up, I'm willing to be seen, and I'm willing to do it without any guarantee of the outcome. And I guess I always hope that I'm reaching out to you with my vulnerability. And are you going to meet me and also be willing to be vulnerable together? Because I stretched my neck out, and I live to tell about it, and you can too. And the richness that comes from that is just the magic.
I love the way you said that about being vulnerable together,
Yeah.
because community, we've realized now for the last 4 years, community is so very important. It's so important for all of us, and we have somewhat had sort of the idea that individualism was really the way to go. Being an individual has really been, we've been patted on the back to be an individual. And then realizing that no, really, we're made as spirits in a human body. We're really made to be in community.
Yeah, and I've probably been erred on the side of being too independent. And yet the healthy, beautiful thing is to be interdependent.
Yes, I
You
like
know,
that word.
I'll bring the milk and you bring the cereal, and together we'll have breakfast, you know? All right, so now let's talk about common values linked to better mental health and what those values, and these aren't specifics, they're kind of groups of values. The first one is growth oriented values. Somebody mentioned integrity, and when people haven't been brought up that integrity is valuable, you might, everybody will be a used car salesman. Oh, Lord, help us. Um, so living your life based on I'm always going to tell my truth is can be difficult. It puts you on the spot sometimes. And I've even considered at times how much do I honor my integrity, hold it, in esteem. So things to better mental well-being or mental health is growth-oriented values. I'm going to look at my list here. I've got a list of 50 things. And okay, so one of them is movement. Well, that sounds like exercise, right? So if I'm not moving, and that would be a growth-oriented value to me because that's part of keeping yourself healthy, then you would find ways in your day or your week to be engaged in movement, and you can be experience consequentially better mental health because you're being true to yourself. Okay, and then the next thing on my list is, in fact, honesty and integrity. So I kind of covered those a little bit together. Okay, the third group of values linked to better mental health is purpose and meaning. Now, let's see, Permelia mentioned purpose. I think purpose kind of comes from part of knowing yourself better, and that's another thing that I work with people on quite a bit. Purpose does equal meaning. It adds so much meaning to your life, even if they're teaching people with dementia to have purpose. Hello, who knew you could do that? So, an example at one of the senior living places, this one gal, she didn't have dementia, but she noticed that every morning, at 6 or 7 o'clock, a whole bunch of newspapers are left at the front desk, and so she decided that her purpose for the morning was to always deliver to people's doors their newspaper. Well, that may not seem like much to some people, but she felt good about herself because she found something that needed to be done and stepped up to the plate and did it herself. And that's a simple thing that people with dementia might be able to, in fact, do. Um, so, do you have any examples of purpose and meaning coming from your values?
I think also you have, purpose, you have to realize what your definition of purpose is. So I'll tell a little personal story. I thought my purpose was to be a good wife and a good mother. And it wasn't until I read a book about purpose, but from more of a not doing, but being.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it was like a big light bulb went on. I was like, oh my goodness, I've got more. I felt like I had more ways to contribute than just being a good wife and a good mother. My children were very little at the time, And I really appreciate what Red was saying earlier, because my children are millennials, and I do see in them a lot of forgiveness and giving and allowing and looking at life more at a holistic way, and also embracing vulnerability as a strength and not a weakness. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to hop off early, Sharon, but this has just been so delightful.
Good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you
Great,
for contributing and coming.
great conversation.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. We'll talk soon.
Okay. All right. I'll go through my list a little bit faster here. Optimism is a value or a type of group of values. Optimism, looking on the positive side, looking on the sunny side of life, could be help you have a better mental health and mental well-being. And mindfulness. Um, I'm kind of surprised that mindfulness came up in this list because on my list of um, value clarifications, mindfulness is not on this list, but uh, there are blanks here, so you can add your own value. I think that's more of a current, I mean, in the last 10 or 15 years that mindfulness has been a little stronger seen as a link to better mental health. Okay, conscientiousness. I'm conscientiousness could apply to what are you doing and what impact does it have on other people? Being conscious of making life harder on someone else and you're not meaning to, for example, um, that you're not an island, you are impacting other people's lives and well-being, so to speak, and you're not blind to that. Could be, I think, a way of seeing conscientiousness. Okay, another group of values for better mental health is family and connections. And the I'm starting to get a little bit um sensing a need to strengthen my family connections because too often I've been in the last 6, 8 years, I've been too focused on what I'm doing instead of being spending time with family. I could improve there. So, and yet here I am reaching out to um, people halfway around the world and connecting with them. So, so priorities here. All right, and then authenticity is a value linked to better mental health. We've talked about authenticity recently as being genuine, being willing to express your truth and your um, you in your own skin. You know that next, who am I really in my skin? And then, of course, gratitude, a whole sense of values around gratitude is linked to better mental health. So let's see. I think I have, oh no, that is my last screen. I mean, last slide on that. I love the conversation we're having. And I also want to, again, each time I like to remind people that transformational journey is two sides of the same coin. It's you're either having negative thoughts or positive thoughts. And I don't know that this list of values has negative things on it per se, but there's any good trait can be taken to an extreme. So, like on my list of elements of transformative journey, overthinking would be uh, an excessive use of analysis, perhaps. All right. And then there's negative things, a list of negative things are overthinking and what ifs, for example, and being measured, maybe measured could be, here's 2 cents or uh, $200, but I have to measure. Oh, my old roommate she measures things out to the pennies all the time. Being nervous or edgy could be negative. Worry and control. To me, worry is spinning your wheel and going nowhere, as opposed to ingenuity. You being restless, so you can't relax, annoyed and irritable, being afraid, pain in your chest, or misuse of imagination is the negative thoughts that you could be entertaining, um, hour by hour, minute by minute, or you could choose courage, hope, possibility, curiosity, um, being inspired and peaceful, serving as a positive thought, your inner truth or authenticity, or uh, being encouraged and creative is all part of the transformative journey. If you found today's conversation valuable and you're looking to dive deeper into understanding the importance of values and discovering your purpose or spark or essence, and want to build that courage in your life to the fullest, having strong well-being, then I encourage you to um what to take a note in the chat there of 2 links that I put in for Discover Your Spark, Rekindle Your Joy is the premier offering that I have for my clients, and it helps you go through a values clarification process. It's so important. And I want to encourage you to just book a call with me where we can actually just talk freely for about 30 minutes of where you're at and what matters um, in your life that you want to change. And my email is Sharon at effortlessvitality.org. Or you can also find a lot of good things on SharonRolf.com. So um, the for those that are listening to this replay, I encourage you to either direct message me or email me, um, and let's talk about what kind of work you think you'd like to do around values and knowing yourself better. This is so valuable to to purposely look at strengthening your life with values and being the best that you possibly can be. It's worth time and effort to stretch in the um, as try to be your best self, and you can have that feeling like heaven on earth is in your daily life. You will be so blessed with that. So thank you for being here today.